give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Through God we shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Harold Maldonado coming to you with another broadcast, your weekly news broadcast, MoCo Resistance. Today is July 7th, year of our Lord 2023. We've entitled the episode The Great Awakening, and this comes after a historic, momentous week that we had last week when parents from the Muslim community and the Orthodox Christian Ethiopian community have come together to voice their concerns and to protect religious rights, first of all, and also to protect parents' rights in front of the boards of education. And their demand for the Board of Education to reinstall the opt-out option against the transgender sexualized curriculum in our public school system. So we've called this the Great Awakening because we're experiencing that in the county. For the first time ever, the county is waking up to the reality of what's going on in our schools, in the community, and people are calling out the lies from the council, the disingenuous agenda that they have for us in terms of property tax increases, the economy in declining, and the overall quality of life declining, deteriorating in the county. So this is part of that Great Awakening, and I'm pleased, very happy, very excited, very stoked to be part of it. And this comes as many grassroots organizations are stepping up, and not only in the background but also in the forefront to challenge the narrative of the extreme left, communist, Marxist, socialist occupation that we're under. So this is comes as the world has been going through the Great Awakening for at least 3 years, if not before, and people all over the world are waking up to the fact that their governments, be those federal, country, local, and state governments, are not working for them. They're working for their interests. They're beholden to interest with big pharma, big industry, big corporations, and their agenda is not the agenda of we the people. So, like I said before, what happens in Montgomery County doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens. It's related to what's going on at the state level. It relates to what is happening at the federal level as well. So you are part of the Great Awakening. So welcome to another episode. Please share these broadcasts far and wide, as we need this information to reach every household in the county. So today we're going to go into the current events. We're going to touch on what's going on nationally and locally. And also, we're going to talk about how residents are calling out the lies from the council. We're going to talk about how the organic grassroots organizations are speaking out against the council and the Board of Education overreach, and also how the Board of Education is following the Marxist agenda to remove religion and morals, and most importantly, family values from school. And then finally, we're going to interview one of the founders of one grassroots organizations. They're called the United Against Racism in Education. We're going to talk to the founder, Dee Rubin, who has been very active in the community, informing parents, informing the community of what's going on in our education system. So without any further ado, let's jump into current events. We have the Montgomery County Watchdog actually pointing out that although there were 2 mass shootings in Baltimore in 1 week, the media, the mainstream media, has come on to support and help the governor of Maryland, and this is a classic move. The mainstream media and the local media are bought and paid for, and they don't work for us. They work for the Democrat Party. They work for the leaders that are not working for us. So this is how does a person get nominated for the person of the week? They're not doing anything. This guy was selected, not elected, like everybody in federal government, local, state level, and local government offices. We got Clean Slate MoCo calling out Kristen Mink's basically lies about the shootings that happened in White Oak. And the shootings, she says, updates on last night's shooting in White Oak. It was not random. It was contained to the occupants of an apartment. What is she saying? That like this is not a real problem. This is an isolated problem. Anyway, and then we have Steve Austin, who's retweeted something from the mainstream media. They call out Asian Americans as, or they call out Asian American conservatives have become key allies of the white supremacy. Again, the agenda of and the modus operandi of how these Marxists work is divide the community, separate the community by race, religion, creed, sex, gender, etc. That's where we're seeing. So if this doesn't open your eyes a little bit just to question the narrative from the national media or local media, you should definitely see. And then we have one of the one of the groups that has been leading this effort from last week. And I'm going to show you some videos from. I was there. I was at the Board of Education rally in March last week, and it was something very excited. People there are full of energy and passion, and this is the great awakening that is happening. Just started in Montgomery County, which I'm very surprised it is, but it's organic, it's natural, and it's wonderful to see. So kudos to the founder of Family Rights for Religious Freedom. Here they put out a notice that they'll have another march on July 20th, and so please, if you can, show up. I know many people don't have time, but this is a great opportunity to show support for if you have children, if you have grandchildren, nephews, nieces in the school system. This is a great way to show your support and to fight the Board of Education's illegal mandate to force our kids to read inappropriate, sexualized books and curriculum. So here we go. And then we will also get in touch with the leaders of these groups to have them in the show, to interview them, and we'll work on that in the weeks ahead. And we have, again, the White Oak shooting. We have more crime rising in the county. And of course, this is a classic Marxist move. They create the problem and they create the solution. Don't be surprised if the county executive and the county council come up with a wonderful plan to address the crime they've created. So, and again, elections have consequences. So this is not a way for me to put a negative light into the current administration in the county, but the county has been run by Democrats for over 40 years, and this is just a result of that. And this is a local media outlet which will defend, protect, and make the public inform the public of non-important, non-issue articles. So this is one of the groups that they're bought and paid for. So they don't work for us. They don't even work for their journalist integrity. They work for the county council and the executive. And here again, the White Oak critical shooting. And we are concerned. At this point, you should know that the county is not going to do anything. The council, the executive are not going to do anything. So my suggestion is to start thinking about creating neighborhood watches in your community. So that would be my suggestion. And we have an account here, Bethany Mandel, who is the lead of Revive MoCo. and she is a parent. She comes from the Jewish community. And again, the if you don't toe the line of the woke progressive agenda, they're going to come after you. And she points out that I'll read it to you just in case many of you are driving while listening to this podcast. Bethany Mendel says, these are just my DMs in the last few hours. Not saying it to complain, but I will use it the opportunity to illustrate how angry progressive activists try to silence anyone who dares to step out of line. The intimidation is the only way they can force compliance. So, and I apologize for those watching. You're going to see some harsh language. And again, this is from a community, a progressive woke community that says they're tolerant, that they're for inclusivity, they're for freedom, for racial freedom and justice or whatever. They're a bunch of liars. If you don't agree with them, they'll call you names. And this is just an example. And kudos to Bethany for stepping out and talking about what's really going on. And hopefully we'll have her on the show as well. Continuing, we have current events on what's going on in the country. Everybody should be aware of what's going on in the White House. They found a white substance, and that white substance was cocaine. And accidentally, Hunter Biden visited the White House a few days prior to this event. So more likely that it was his. And of course, the national media is on full damage control. And you're probably going to hear from the news outlets locally, WMAU, PBS radio, NPR. They're going to probably come out defending the Biden administration and say that that's not his or his parents. The Biden administration is bought and paid for by the Chinese government, so they're not working for us. And I wouldn't be surprised if the impeachment process gets underway pretty soon in terms of more updates. And here we have Maryland Politics Hangout. This account is calling out the local media, and they're just saying what we all are seeing, that the journalists are terrible and they don't cover what the real issues. And they're actually one of the local media outlets are one of the major reasons why we are at the state that we are in the county, because they don't inform the public of what's going on. So the public is not really has all the information in order for them to make a reasonable and educated selection when it comes to elections. So we'll talk about these outlets in the next episodes. And here we have Steve Austin. Here he retweets a tweet from Z Van Fleet, who's talking about Mao's affirmative action in China, worker, peasant, soldier, college students. So this comes at the heels of the Supreme Court removing affirmative action from colleges. So this is one comment that he makes, Austin, and it's a very good comment. So I'll read you the tweet. During the Chinese Cultural Revolution, college exams were abandoned. Qualification was determined by one's correct political views, membership in the proletarian red class, and recommendation by party leaders. Many of the students had only elementary school education. So there's a video showing these students, and again, I mean, this should basically touch your core, because this is what's happening. The leaders in our state, in our counties, and at the federal level, they're not qualified to be in those positions because they don't have any experience, they don't have any background of real background in the private sector, etc. And they're only there because they follow the party line, they follow a certain ideology, and then that's why they're there. Continuing, we have another grassroots account. This is from the Up County Citizen. The person provides information on what's going on in Damascus, and shout out to Damascus, a great community um, that is unique, close knit, conservative, and patriotic, and would love to move there. Anyway, in this instance, she refers to the current county council that leads that District 7, and she's talking about the transportation issues. And it's funny how this relates to, I had a conversation with a friend this past weekend, and he mentioned that he received campaign material from Don Lidke last year, where she says she was going to fix the transportation without any details, without anything. So this is it's funny how this is happening in Damascus, where they have a lot of problems with public transportation. So don't expect anything from this lady. Nothing, nothing. She's just another puppet that will raise her hand and talk about all the awards and all the offices that she's worked in the public sector. And actually, she's one of the reasons why we have the rising crime levels. And we'll talk about that in future episodes. But don't hold your breath, Up County citizen. She will not do anything. Okay, continuing again, another council member, Mariel Welcome, in this instance, she's talking about holding another town hall. Why do they need town halls? They already know what the problem is. They already know what's going on. They don't need town halls. What are you going to talk about? Yeah, hey, what is your, are you have you suffered crime in your neighborhood? Yeah, everybody. Crime is spreading like wildfire, and this is basically out of the Marxist plan, which is, and the strategy is to gaslight the public, make the public think that you are on their side, but you're not. And they're going to lie to the public, and this is needless. You already know what the problem is. The police department is underfunded and unmanned, basically low levels of police graduates from the academy, and you have that problem. There's more crime. There's more crime than the police department can handle. So you already know what to do. If you're a council member, you're part of the legislative body of the county, and you don't know what to do. This is incredible. And here we have another account, Bridget Ho. She's calling out Marilyn Balcom. And I'm sorry to tell you, Bridget, but all the hope and dreams you have of the county council doing their job are just that, dreams. They're not going to do anything because they don't work for us. They're beholden to corporations, big pharma, biotech, big corporations. And this is a comment, tweet from Black Mommy Activist PhD. I don't know what world. So basically saying 30 people were shot in a mass shooting in Baltimore City on Sunday. 15 are between the ages of 13 and 17. 6 more mass shootings have happened since then. And she says, I will say it again and again, it's time to repeal the darn Second Amendment. So these progressive woke comments and accounts talk about mass shootings, and this has been happening since the Obama administration, where we saw a lot of school shootings, mass shootings. And what was the result of the comments from these Democrats? It was Second Amendment, Second Amendment. This is again gaslighting the public. You're not going to hear Westmore or the county council talk about the real root of the problem of public or mass shootings. Criminals have easy access to guns, and you think the criminals are going to abide or be respectful of laws that you put in place? No. And this is what happened to every communist country in the world: Cuba, Russia, China. The first thing they did was to remove the rights of the citizens. of citizens to own guns, and, and that's what happened to Venezuela, for example. The Venezuelan government and their agenda was to remove the guns from people in order for the people not to be able to defend themselves, and that's the only reason why we're holding on, because we have that right. We have Clean Slate MoCo again providing um, some comment, a tweet over a campaign finances where she points out that Mink, Kate Stewart, got more money out of the public election fund beyond what is allowed. And of course, you're not going to see this in any local media. And hopefully, Clean Slate MoCo will have more on that. Let's see if he has more. Yes, he has an article, so you can go ahead and go to cleanslatemoco.com. I'll put the link under the video for you guys to read more on this. But it's incredible. It's incredible. There are more news coming out from these grassroots accounts and basically calling out the lies in this actions by the current council members and how they're not being honest. They're abusing their power. Then, and of course, and if this was done by a conservative GOP candidate, oh, you would hear this all over the news locally and in some instances and nationally. So here we go. Cheryl Riley, she was one of the GOP candidates that ran for office for the council last year. Very passionate, very smart, very apt individual who is very active right now on Twitter, and she's been calling out the lies from Westmore and this state leadership. So she says, "What action? We will take action." They cry, but zero action taken. It's just a pathetic attempt of a virtue signal until the next strategy we know is inevitable as criminals are protected over residents. Yep, I agree with that 100%. And you are Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller. You're the head of the executive in the state of Maryland, along with Wes Moore. What are you doing? Do your job. You're not doing anything by calling out or making or sending out statements. It's laughable sometimes. And this is breaking news right here. Breaking news from Clean State MoCo. And basically, this is an internal email that was sent within the Board of Education. Carla Silves leaked to us. So Carla Silves, Board of Education, does the BOE have a policy where they take recommendations on who to have bias against during testimony regularly? This email sounds like a direct attack on the free speech of a Black woman that cares about the county, Esther Wells. Emails is addressed to President Sylvester of the Board of Education. And it says, I'll read the whole thing to you. So I suspect that most of the people speaking at public comments tomorrow will be addressing the BOE's policy of not providing for students to opt out of classes using reading books, which are inclusive of LGTB plus people and their families. I applaud you and your colleagues for standing firm against these attacks. Those who testified last week in opposing the BOE policy did not ask that the books be removed, but they be permitted to opt their children out of class when the books are used. So again, they know that the issue is very simple. I don't understand why the Board of Education is not allowing parents to opt out. And again, this is part of that agenda to remove family values, to remove religion, to remove God from the classroom. And this is just an attack on family values, which is unacceptable. And I applaud all the organizations working to protect those rights from parents and children to opt out of these evil, immoral books. So again, at the end of the letter, the person says, "I just saw that tomorrow's scheduled final public comments speaker is Esther Wells." So they're targeting a person who, Esther Wells, as many of you know, she ran for Board of Education last year. and she ran a very strong campaign, and she's active in the community now. And so the letter goes. Just saw that tomorrow's scheduled final public comments speaker is Esther Wells. I'm sure you and your colleagues remember her from last year's election campaign. On the off chance that her associations regarding LGBT plus matters have faded from memory, this link lays it out with a supporting evidence. So basically, the Board of Education is targeting a person because she has certain comments or certain views, and this is just wrong. This is unacceptable, and kudos to Esther Wells for being in the fight and standing her ground. So this is unacceptable. The Board of Education should be ashamed of this kind of internal communication. Where's your racial and economic equity propaganda? It's going down the toilet, as I see it. And then this is me again. This is I was there and took some pictures, and this is one of my tweets. Is this too much to ask? Parents are waking up to the lies, and are starting to fight back. You're telling the people you're failing the people you pretend to represent. This is just starting. And this is a picture of a sign that says math, science, yes. Gender dogma, no. Very simple message. So
that does it for current events. Now we'll turn our attention to what happened last week on the 27th of June, a very momentous historical occasion in Montgomery County where communities of faith came together to oppose the Board of Education's not letting them opt out of the transgender LGTB books curriculum currently in place in the county. I talked to parents, organization leaders, and very pleased, very, very happy to see this movement. And here's some videos that I took from the event. Enjoy.
We're going to be here every board meeting.
Yes!
Be here every board meeting.
Yes! We're not going anywhere.
Be persistent.
Yes!
We have to be heard.
Yes!
If we stop, they stop.
Yes!
So I want to tell and ask everybody. This is the start. We're going to continue. We're going to do anything and everything under the sun for our children.
Yes!
For our children, we will do anything and everything. So keep this in mind. That's why I'm back. Thank you.
So if you want, this is QR code.
Our voices will be heard!
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 From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
All children will be free!
All children will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Our children will be free!
Our children will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Our children will be free!
Our children will be free!
No fear!
No fear!
You will hear!
You will hear!
No fear!
No fear!
You will hear!
You will hear!
No fear!
No fear!
You will hear!
You will hear!
No fear!
No fear!
You will hear! We will continue to fight!
We will continue to fight!
Protect family rights!
Protect family rights!
We will continue to fight!
We will continue to fight!
Protect family rights!
Protect family rights!
We will continue to fight!
We will continue to fight!
Protect family rights!
Protect family rights!
We will continue to fight!
We will continue to fight! Vote them out! Vote them out! Vote them out! Vote them out! Vote them out!
So as you were able to see and hear, these communities are passionate and they're committed to protecting their children. So, yeah, and because of this event, because of the repercussions that this had locally, it also had echoed in the national news. So, the National Democratic Woke Progressive Party has come and to defend their comrades at the county council level and at the Board of Education, where they are actually defending and pinning this, of course, pinning this as something racist and divisive by the GOP. The GOP didn't have anything to do with this movement. The GOP is reorganizing itself and trying to lick its wounds from last year's midterm election. So, these are the two videos that showcase what I'm talking about.
Now, I just mentioned this disturbing allegation that Muslim parents and their children, former students who want to opt out of the sexualized curricula in our schools, are now akin to white supremacists. Joining me now is one of those parents, Kareem Monib. He's the president of Coalition of Virtue and organized a rally over this issue. Kareem, you and I were talking before the show, and us Catholics and other Christians, other people of faith have been waiting for the Muslims to step up on this issue and so many others. And you really are doing it in your community. What is your response to some of what we just shared in that angle?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of the brave, heroic parents that came out to the rally. There's a lot of fear of standing up, as you mentioned, and we want to break through that wall of fear and want people to get motivated and empowered to raise their voices for what everybody recognizes is reasonable. And so I want to thank those parents. If you're watching, parents of Family Rights for Religious Freedom, that's the local Montgomery County parent group. Thank you so much. You are brave, and everybody's watching, and your actions are having an effect.
And the young students who spoke out, I was so impressed with them.
Amazing.
I mean, they documented and recounted how they've been bullied for actually saying, well, wait, I'm a person of faith. I'm not perfect, but I'm a person of faith, and this offends my sensibility. Yet they're the ones being targeted in the schools, yet they still spoke out.
That's right. It requires a lot of bravery. One of the students, I recall from their testimony, said, isn't that why people came to this country, for religious freedom? And now that's been taken away from us. And he mentioned also that, what is the meaning of freedom? Freedom is the ability to do what you want, uninhibited. And that is clearly not the case.
Now, Kareem, I want to play more from this Montgomery County Council member, Kristen Mink, from yesterday. Watch this.
The scientific and medical community has come to a clear consensus that LGBTQIA plus people exist. When we have children's books that represent, a child who has, who is transgender, that is the reality. And so MCPS has the responsibility to include and reflect that reality in our curriculum.
Now, Kareem, this is a school district that we fought tooth and nail to open up those schools. One of the many left-wing school districts that really hurt kids during this COVID pandemic. They were never held accountable. In fact, they reelected their county executive, Mr. Elrich. So what do you make of her comment? This is all consensus. It's already established.
It's absolutely not. That's ridiculous. It's not a consensus. There's no scientific consensus that says a boy can become a girl simply by declaring something with his voice. And it's rejected by science. It's rejected by every faith tradition. And so, these kinds of arguments are silly. I want to say that what Coalition of Virtue, our vision is to bring together people of all faiths.
All faiths, which I love.
And we want to restore the moral consensus that we had in this country since its inception. And we want to bring people of all faiths, and even those who may not belong to any particular faith.
Traditionalists, perhaps.
Traditional, reasonable people. I think that if we come together, we can become a political force in this country that can save us from what's happening.
You, Kareem, and all of those kids who spoke out and former students, you all petrify the left. And so now they claim that you're the white supremacist. That's how low they have gone. But you don't seem too worried about it.
It's absolutely ridiculous assertion. I mean, most of the people out there were, like you said, brown or black. So it's offensive. It's only going to galvanize
Empower
us
you.
more. Yeah, because more people know what's going on now.
Kareem, thank you for coming in.
Faiths, pretty diverse group, and one of the protesters tells Fox News this isn't about politics, but rather the desire for their kids to have a quality education and the freedom of religion. The former White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, apparently she has a different take. She claims Republicans are recruiting Muslim Americans against transgender people.
By pitting one group of Americans against another, the GOP successfully managed to split off Southern whites from the Democratic Party. Now, decades later, the right wing is reviving that same playbook, this time with Muslim Americans and trans people. Hear me out here. The GOP is trying to recruit Muslim Americans, a community that makes up less than 2% of the U.S. population, against another tiny marginalized group of Americans, transgender people.
So it's all a Republican ploy, Kara, if I've got that right. So I thought we should hear directly from some Muslim leaders. Ismail Royer, she's the director of the Islam and Religious Freedom Action Team, says the left wants to scare Muslims into accepting its indoctrination of our children in exchange for a smile and pat on the head. They insult Muslims by portraying us as having no agency or intelligence, but can't imagine that we've weighed the bargain they offer us and rejected it. Then the head of CARE, Edward Ahmed Mitchell, instead of addressing the substance of the concerns these families have raised about what's happening in public schools, the likes of MSNBC paint these parents as dupes being used by the political right, directly from Muslim faith leaders.
Exactly. And the left is all about projection. So it's whatever they think that the other side is doing, they're probably doing themselves. This coming from the former press secretary from one of the most divisive administrations, at least in my lifetime. I think that's pretty rich. But I also ask Jen Psaki to look at the Armenians clashing with Antifa in California. They're not Muslim. They are simply traditional parents who want to bring their children up in more traditional homes. They object to them being sexualized in the curriculum. They object to the predations of some of these teachers that, frankly, Libs of TikTok has exposed on her account on Twitter and on TikTok as well. So I think that this is people really looking at the evidence of their eyes and their ears. They are not pawns in this divisive game that, frankly, the left is very good at playing.
And all they're asking for is to opt out of the curriculum, let their child be insulated from teachings that they don't agree with or don't want them exposed to at an early age. And Kevin, I don't get how this is a made-up movement by Republicans when this has happened in Maryland. It's Canada. So Republicans are going to Canada to get the Muslims on board? I mean... Yeah, well, and this is right in Kara and I's backyard, living in Washington, D.C., just in Montgomery County. Listen, I think there needs to be a balance with anything with regards to curriculum, right? There's an important role that I think schools play with teaching age-appropriate sexual health, gender identity, sexual orientation, high schools when it's appropriate for children. But I think one of the other things to come uniquely out of the pandemic is the rise of these parents. And they certainly have a voice. And I'm a Democrat on this couch saying parents certainly have a voice. And there should be a process by which people can opt out from curriculum that they find super objectionable to their religious beliefs. And I think we've got to strike a balance without these protests in the street, without anyone getting harmed, because at the end of the day, kids have every right to a first-rate education. It's a great school district in Montgomery County, but again, it needs to be age-appropriate with that curriculum. It should, and the demonization is going to backfire. Let's listen to a Montgomery County council member. She apologized for these comments, I want to point out, but we should bring them to you nonetheless.
This issue has unfortunately does put some, not all of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists and outright bigots. And, you know, however, the folks who I've talked to here today, I would not put in the same category as those folks. Although, you know, it's, again, complicated because they're falling on the same side of this particular issue.
So she apologized, but she's putting Muslims on the side of white supremacists. And if you remember, Jamil Hill put the Asian Americans as carrying water for white supremacists.
Well, first, don't forget, Kaylee, it started with women that we vote Republican or conservative because our husbands told us to. Right. And then, remember, the New York Times talked about the rise of the white nationalist Hispanic. Yesterday, we have Jamil Hill attacking Asian Americans, and now, of course, the Muslims community is being attacked in Maryland. So it doesn't matter what ethnic what minority group you are, what gender you are, you're going to get attacked if you align with conservative policies. So, welcome, you should get used to it. And also, Kaylee, if we as a Republican Party were actually that good at master manipulation of everybody, we would be winning more races.
That's a good point.
I mean, they're giving us all a little bit more credit than I think we deserve. The bottom line is that this is a free country and that there's a lot of women who vote conservative, not because their husband tells them to, but because that's how they want their children to believe. And so there's a lot of people who have very conservative religious beliefs in this country, not just Christians. Doesn't mean they're white supremacists. It just means they believe in traditional values. Welcome to the Republican Party.
Well, and Kaylee, I mean, look, we can disagree on politics, and that's fine as adults. We can agree on how to parent children. And one of the things that the pandemic exposed was what was happening in classrooms across this country, what was being taught or not taught. And if you look now at some of the scores, in particular in states like New York, these children are very, very behind because of the lack of teaching. I'm not beating up on teachers, not beating up on parents. I'm just saying that this is a conversation that should not be politicized. Shame on Jen Psaki for politicizing something that is not, at the end of the day, political. It's about these kids.
Absolutely. And it's Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Armenian, Muslim.
As you were able to hear and see, the Democrat Party is in full damage control. The communist, socialist, Marxist agenda is cracking at the seams, and they are in full panic. So this is what I'm talking about, the Great Awakening. Parents, families, students are waking up to the truth, and we need to spread the truth far and wide. Share these broadcasts, share this news, and get involved locally in your community. As I've said since episode 1, we need to wake up as many people as we can so we can save this county, and by doing so, save the state, and in some measure, help save the country from this occupation. So now we'll turn our attention to this week's interview. We are going to interview the founder of United Against Racism in Education, Dee Rubin, who has graciously accepted our invitation. So here we go with that interview. Hello, Dee. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Harold. How are you?
Great. Thanks for your time. I know you've been busy. Wanted to talk to you and get your thoughts on what happened at the Board of Education last week. But before we get into that, I wanted you to introduce your organization and how you came to create it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. As a former educator in Montgomery County Public Schools, I was just heartbroken to see our education system failing our students and families. I worked for Montgomery County Public Schools when we were at the height of education systems around the country. And now I see it spiraling downward, and any educator that you talk to that went into education went into it for the love of the children, and we're not seeing what we should be seeing. And that's the reason why I started United Against Racism in Education. We are a nonpartisan families and educators in Montgomery County opposed to critical race theory, this whole transgender movement, and the fact that they're pushing their focus is not where it should be. We want the focus to be brought back to academics. Martin Luther King famously said, "I have a dream that our 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of skin, by the content of their character." And instead of teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, Montgomery County Public Schools, the Teachers Union, and the Montgomery County Board of Education want our K through 12 students to learn skin color, not character, is what really matters in life. You are either an obsessor or obsessed. And that's just not the way that our education system should be focusing on. Our test scores and our assessments recently are dwindling downward. Our students are graduating and they do not have the skills to be able to go out in this world and to become successful. And that's what the education we need in Montgomery County to go back and focus. So with that, we started We had 50 members. We have about 300 now. And so the whole idea is to educate families, community members, taxpayers, because they're paying for all this. Our mission is to affirm individuality and unique characteristics of each student. My principal used to say, failure is not an option, success for every student. Reject the treatment of students as members of a preferred group or one deemed inferior. We strive for excellence in schools, like I said, focusing on academics, and provide a balanced presentation of American history, the good and the bad. Our goals are, we have 4 goals at this time we're working on. Parent education. It's always about educating the parents. 2 is information to the community so that the community realizes where their tax dollars are going. We want to take action. And we do that in terms of we lobby the Board of Education. We go to the board meetings and we send information to the county council. And then the other thing we do is we we cultivate and support Board of Education candidates. And so if there's anybody out there that has the desire to run for the Board of Education, we will have 3 openings. And so we are in the process of having a meeting with candidates, and then the UARE group will be vetting the candidates that we want to support. So presently, one of the things we're doing now is we're reaching out to clergy because we feel they have a captive audience of congregation. And so we're going to be meeting with we've had 1 meeting, and we are going to be focusing on religious rights and trying to get some materials distributed through the congregations so that the parents are more aware. That's been the hardest thing, is trying to get information out there. We also have a book list of approved books that are used at the school system, and we are going to we have a group that's going to work on that to expand the list every school in Montgomery County and include the clubs that are at that school that are dealing with transgenderism. As if you go onto our website, uare.us, you will see lots of articles about some of the clubs and how the teachers are basically telling the students any information that's given during these club times, it's not to be shared at home with the parents. And there's also a couple teachers in Montgomery County that have actually gone on TikTok and talked about the fact that they have a unique situation. They can help kids trans without letting the parents know, because Montgomery County has said that they're not allowed to share information with the parents.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for that information. I think as a parent myself of kids who are attending or have attended public schools in the county, this is one of the reasons why I decided to throw my hat into politics last year, and now me continuing to work on just expanding awareness and telling or trying to tell the true story of this agenda to the public. And I'm glad that your organization exists in terms of providing information, and we applaud for MoCo Resistance. You have our support, and we applaud organizations like yourselves that are fighting to just basic information gathering and sharing of information of what's really going on, because the kids are the future, and they are the bread and butter of every society, every community. Now, let me ask you, let's go back to the events that your organization has had. And I was part of those events in terms of being part of the audience, and very interesting information, very, people who have personal stories to tell, like parents who have transgender kids, and family members and the ordeal that they go through, et cetera, et cetera. So, thank you for those events as well. Can you talk about what has been the reaction from the other side? I know you've been attacked. Your organization has been attacked in terms of being called, this hate group of people who are against this and that, the LGBT community. Is your group a hateful group?
I have to laugh. It first of all, that seems to be the situation that the left keeps trying to throw out there. And I was at both rallies Montgomery County Public Schools had, and they basically kept saying that we just hate transgenderism, and that is like far from it. Yes, we did do a session where we had two parents come in and discuss what's happened in their families. We had a journalist from the Christian Post who is an expert on all the money that's being made through medications, through surgeries. And so word got out, and Kristen Mink, county council member, contacted Montgomery County Trans Group and said that there was a group that hated the trans, and they were doing a session. And so they were going to be in the parking lot with their boombox and having a party. And so, it's kind of interesting because we are far from a hate group. All we really want is we want parents to have rights, which they should be having. And we want the students to be able to be educated without politics involved at all. And that is basically it. So therefore, one of the things recently is you don't have common sense, and transparency is nowhere to be found. So I find that so disheartening, because as an educator, you have to be transparent. You have to love the kids to be in the classroom teaching them. And if you have this hold over what you can teach and what you can't teach, and one of the things I find so upsetting is that, yes, some of the communities, the Muslim communities and the Ethiopian community, came out big time for the rally. And they're really concerned about the books that are being used, because as a parent, they're not allowed to opt their student out. But the other part of it is they have no clue what lessons are being used with those books. And I know when they updated the health curriculum this year, I saw the lessons that went with it. The school system wouldn't share those lessons. They basically sent everybody to the website to pull up the curriculum. But the curriculum doesn't tell it all. But the lessons tell it all. So that dishonesty is just, it's terrible. And I want to go back and point out one thing. I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I partially blame parents, because parents got to the point where over the years, they just felt that this education system was so good that they could pull back and let the education system take over. But these are their kids, and they're the only ones that can advocate for them. And what's happening now, and we've seen it in other countries, is the school system's putting this division between the students and the parents. I get calls on a weekly basis where parents just don't know what to do. And this is exactly how Marxism comes about, because you divide the students from the families. So that's where we are now. So parents need to wake up, take back control of their kids. And they are the only ones that should be parenting. And the school system basically has to abide by the laws that say that there are parental rights.
Yeah, a few points on that. So yes, I agree. I agree with you that parents have some blame on this, because they've been, I guess I can talk from my experience. I was always, I guess, trustworthy of what the county was teaching my kids as a public school product myself. The education, the level, the quality of education in Montgomery County. I graduated early 90s from the county public system, and it was great. They were focusing on science, reading, math, and a lot of kids were able to, had a chance to go into advanced classes, etc. And we didn't have any problems. There was, of course, the scrimmages, violent scrimmages here and there, but it wasn't remotely what we're seeing today. And yes, I agree with you. The organic response from the Muslim community and from the Ethiopian Christians, it's basically a fundamental right parents should have in their kids' education. And yes, this is part of that. Again, I agree with you on your last point that this is clearly out of the Marxist agenda, which is to alienate parents and children and their children in order for the government to come in and just start brainwashing the kids, and that's what's going on. And we're concerned about that, and I'm glad your organization is working on this. And I am very happy that this organic organization of parents are speaking out, and not only the Muslim community, the Hispanic community is also being aware of these issues, and they're coming out, big time to support the parents' rights. Again, and I agree with you also 100%. This is not left, right, middle, conservative, liberal. This is about basic parents' rights, and I think everybody can agree with that and come on board with protecting the simple rights of parents to have a say in what their kids are learning. And to go back to what you said about parents and children being separated, that's what the county is doing. That's what the policies are doing to our communities. You see parents working, sometimes 2 jobs, and the working class community where their parents are working 2 jobs. What time do they have to look at the curriculum? What time do they have to look at the lessons that their kids are learning? Only the well-off or the middle class has a chance to look at, hey, Timmy, what did you learn today, or this and that. My daughter, she's in elementary school, and beginning of last year, last year's school year, she asked my wife, can 2 women get married? That's not supposed to be a question, elementary school kid makes to his or her parents. They're supposed to be taught, learning about history, about math, geometry, supposed to be learning about fractions, supposed to be learning about natural sciences. There's no reason for that elementary school kid to be thinking about, hey, can a family have two fathers or two mothers? And we have nothing against people when they're adult to live their lives as happily as they want, to make the choices that they want. If they want to worship a rock, that we live in a free country, they have the right to do so, and they want to live together with whatever gender, whatever person they wish to live with. That's fine, but don't push these values to our kids, which is not natural. It's not conducive for kids to have wholesome and productive lives. That confuses them, and it's inappropriate. Basically, that's the bottom line. So thank you again, Dee, for your information, and I want to hear your comments on what you saw in the rally from the Muslim and Ethiopian community last week.
So I just want to go back to follow up with one thing you said. So our group did a training a couple weeks ago on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and social emotional learning, because that's where it's all within the under the curriculum. That's where it's all being taught. Even though now they're actually even doing the race issue, they're pulling it into math, they're pulling it into every aspects of the curriculum. But my presenter, who's an expert, he's a wonderful speaker, and he basically made this comment, which I thought was kind of interesting, the way he narrowed it down. We have less than 1% of the population that fit into that mold of being transgender. And yet, when you really think about what the issue is, it's who's having sex with who. Now think about that. I mean, that's mind-boggling. And yet our focus, that's where our focus is.
Yep.
And you're right. It starts with pre-K, which is 4-year-olds. And I just saw something that came out today that said the Health and Human Services was basically saying that schools need to be teaching more about sex, and that they need to start with toddlers and preschool kids and talk to them about masturbating and what it means and how to do it. And so they're going down this craziness. It's almost like they're all drinking the same Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and parents think, and the common resident in the county thinks that, this is only happening in the county, but this is happening in, it's happening
all over. And
in the whole state of Maryland. It's happening all over the United States.
Yes.
And it's happening in South America, Europe, Asia,
Right.
Africa, you name it. It's happening everywhere. So this is an agenda that we'll further touch on a different episode. But this is a worldwide agenda to.
Yes. But I just want to throw one other thing out.
Sure.
People call me constantly to complain about these drag queen story times that are going on at Brookside Gardens and neighboring county libraries. And it's the kind of thing where they want to know, what can we do to stop this? Because they're using our taxpayer dollars. And I try to explain to them, you need to do a better job of voting the right people into office, because you have voted these people in that are making these decisions. And then the other thing is, what sane parent takes their kid to a drag queen story time? There was a drag queen that was recently interviewed, and she said, this is for adult audiences. This is not for children.
And this is, I'm afraid that the end goal of this agenda is to normalize and to legalize pedophilia. That is the end goal of this agenda. So parents need to wake up. Parents need to get active. And I've been saying since episode 1, we are under a Marxist, communist, socialist occupation, and we need to wake up. And yes, we are waking up. And yes, the last week was a great event, and those communities are passionate, they're energetic, and other communities are also going to join. I've talked to other people from different communities, and they're also concerned. And what we need to do as a taxpayer resident in the county is to spread these broadcasts, these news broadcasts everywhere, so people can be in the know. We're not asking you to do anything that is not logical. We're asking you to share the information, to get to know what the public school system in the county is doing and what the Board of Education is doing. They're teaching inappropriate things to our kids, and you need to know what they are, why they're doing this. So our job here, and thank you, Dee, again for your time. I know you're busy with your organization, and thanks again for working in terms of educating parents, because I think the parents are the key. Parents are the gateway for information to be filtered to their kids. So it's great that you're focusing on that. So lastly, Dee, again, thank you for your time. What would you say to the common resident in the county on this topic?
Well, we must work together to counter and remove this racist ideology from our public school system, and our private schools are jumping on the bandwagon too. I would hope that you could visit our website, which is uare.us, you are us, and our Facebook page, United Against Racism in Education, because we have lots of good information to share what's happening in the schools, some of the things that are nationally being talked about in terms of Montgomery County Public Schools. And then the other thing is it's so important to be able to get out there, and when it's time to vote, to make sure you're voting for the right people in office. And one of the things that's going to be really important is we have 3 vacancies for the Board of Education for 2024. My group is meeting with some of the parents and community members in the county that are interested in running for those seats. We are looking for more, and then we will, a group of parents, community members, and teachers will vet them, and then we will endorse them on our Blue Book ballot. And our Blue Book ballot will be given out before the election. Blue Book ballot is truly parents, teachers, community members endorsing these candidates that they have vetted. And so it's
what
going
you're
to be
saying is parents have the opportunity to correct this next year.
Yes, because probably out of all the offices, we need strong Board of Education candidates, because what's happening now with the board is that whatever the superintendent says, they all go along. There's never any discussion, questioning anything. They never do any research about any of the programs or anything. They just go along. And as you know, the unions control the Board of Education, the school system, everything. And so the union is pushing all of this craziness, and the school system goes along with it. The board members approve it, and it just continues. It's a vicious circle. And if we don't wake up and get good candidates on the Board of Education to start questioning things and really out there endorsing the focus, what we need in the school system, academics, reading, writing, arithmetic. These kids need to be able to graduate, go out into life, and be able to financially take care of themselves and be a important asset to our communities. And that's not what we're getting. And I think that, I hope that I'm wrong, but I think we can lose this generation if enough parents don't wake up, just like Loudoun County did. Loudoun County, they woke up, they screamed and yelled. And we have the same books in our county school system that they had. We had parents that were willing to come forth and to complain and to get out there and make a difference. The only difference is they have some elected officials that agree with them and that are fighting for them. And we don't have that in Montgomery County.
Yes. So for every parent who's listening to this broadcast, you have an option. There's an organization that Dee Rubin is heading. It is called the United Against Racism in Education. Their website is uare.us, and they have great information on the current issues. The current issues basically are critical race theory, gender identity, school safety, and LGBTQ opt-out information. That this is the start of a great movement. This is the start of Montgomery County waking up. And out of all the places, the Muslim community and the Ethiopian community are leading the way. And we are going to support those groups. We're going to support your group. We're going to support other groups. And we welcome anybody who wants to, any group, any organization that feels that they can contribute or they can talk about, protecting the rights of parents and protecting children. Yeah, you're welcome and to come in and contact MoCo Resistance. We'll be happy to share your information as well. So we'll put the information from your organization, D, and under this video, so people can get a contact with you if they need information, et cetera, et cetera. Best of luck to you. Stay strong, and we'll pray for you, for your organization, and all those who are working on behalf of parents and children.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your attention. This concludes episode 4, The Great Awakening. Please share this broadcast far and wide. Friends, family, co-workers who need this information to reach every corner of the county. Please subscribe to our channels, Telegram, YouTube, and Rumble, and follow us at Twitter and Facebook. Join us. Join the resistance. God bless.
Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Through God we shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies.